Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
It's really sad because the symptoms are horrible for these guys, and there's so many dead and dying all over the place.
Avian flu is hitting some BC farms very hard. Millions of birds have now been killed. Also,
how many times do you think you OD'd?
I was ODing like almost every time I used. It didn't matter how much I used, I went down.
Ian Hannamansing takes a closer look at the push for more access to a safer supply of drugs in BC and why police shut down a local operation. Plus,
when we filled that fridge, it can be gone in a matter of minutes sometimes.
as more Canadians face the risks of hunger, local food banks ask for your help.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Avian flu outbreaks are growing in BC. Infected birds have been found in dozens of farms. The virus is also suspected of infecting and killing many wild birds. As John Hernandez shows us, the impact is being felt hardest in the Fraser Valley.
Just call if that doesn't work.
Each time the phone rings, Elizabeth Melnick worries it's another call about an infected bird.
Okay, bye-bye. And it's so unpredictable. When's the phone going to ring? In 5 minutes? In an hour? You know, so you're always on edge.
Melnick runs her own wildlife center that cares for sick and injured birds and small mammals. But lately, most drop-offs have been birds infected with the avian flu, and the workload has been taxing.
It needs to be handled very, very carefully. You can't bring it in here. You have to deal with it outside, figure things out. Then also the gowns and the gloves.
Melnick says as many as 7 infected birds come here a day, mostly Canada geese and cackling geese from throughout the Fraser Valley. There's no treatment, and they have to be euthanized.
It's really sad because the symptoms are horrible for these guys, and there's so many dead and dying all over the place.
The avian flu is spread from wild birds onto farms. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency reports there's confirmed outbreaks at 36 BC farms. The bulk of them are in the Fraser Valley.
They range from everything: ducks, turkeys, broilers, layers.
And the toll has been significant. Nearly 4 million birds have been killed by the virus or had to be euthanized.
For the farmer, it is mentally very difficult and financially challenging, and it's a ton of work to get that farm cleaned up.
While many farmers might be anxious, the Farming Association says the industry is still healthy overall.
We have over 500 poultry farms in BC. I don't want to downplay it for the individual farmer. It is devastating, but for the average consumer, they're not really going to see much difference at the grocery store.
Still, cases are mounting on farms and in the wild. The province is urging people to report suspected infections. Officials say the virus poses little risk to the public, but can infect people who come into contact with sick birds. John Hernandez, CBC News, Abbotsford.
Hundreds of people gathered in front of the Vancouver Art Gallery today for a prayer and rally in support of Palestinians. Rows of Muslims kneeled in prayer beneath the art gallery's steps, joined by dozens of non-Muslims supporting their calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. They want Israel and Egypt to allow food, water, and medical supplies into Gaza, and for Palestinian refugees to be allowed to return to the region. Organizers also encouraged those gathered not to support elected officials who have not called for a ceasefire. Earlier this week, pro-Palestinian protesters calling for a ceasefire in Gaza confronted the Prime Minister at a Chinatown restaurant. Police say an officer was hurt after scuffles with some of the protesters. Today, though, Justin Trudeau said those outbursts should not be the focus.
Right now, the grief, the anger, the despair so many Canadians are feeling is bleeding over into each other. We are not a country where Canadians should be scared of other Canadians.
Trudeau has called on Israel to, quote, exercise maximum restraint in its war against Hamas. As we showed you last night, the BC government is proposing new employment standards for gig workers. Now, if passed, those who work for ride-hailing and food delivery apps would get a minimum wage, tip protection, and workers' compensation coverage. But as Lindsay Duncombe tells us, that could mean higher prices for you.
About $20 an hour. That's what the BC government thinks gig workers delivering food or driving customers should make. A wage 20% higher than minimum.
I would think it's good news.
But under the proposed legislation, Sam Morton wouldn't be paid for this, waiting. The new wage would only apply when he's on a call.
I could be waiting for like maybe 4 hours in a day total. So I'm probably actively doing deliveries for maybe 4 hours of the day and then waiting for the other 4.
BC also wants to make gig workers eligible for workers' compensation and have defined rules for firing them.
Our government believes everyone who works for a living deserves to be treated fairly.
Defining fairness in a gig economy is a challenge for governments around the world. In the UK, rideshare drivers get pensions and holiday pay. Ontario has plans to implement a minimum wage next year, but changes come with a warning from companies.
This could definitely have an impact on, the cost for delivery for consumers.
Still, some drivers say BC's proposed changes don't go far enough.
My mortgage going up $1,000. Do you think I can afford with the 20% more than the minimum wage? I don't think so.
Many gig workers are new Canadians waiting for approval of foreign credentials or learning language skills.
Now what they need to do is give them all...
Advocates say they should be eligible for sick leave and be paid for all the time they work.
We're deciding that these workers don't deserve the same treatment as all the other employees in BC. That's just not fair, and that's going to uphold racial inequality in the BC labour market.
If BC's proposed legislation is passed and implemented, a lot of paychecks would change. Tens of thousands of British Columbians deliver food and drive for rideshare companies. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
The rising cost of living remains a major concern for many Canadians, pushing some to the brink of food insecurity. And as Sarab Sandhu reports, food support groups are worried they cannot keep up with the rising demand for help.
For the last 2 years, Helping Spirits Lodge Society has been running the Healing Bear Outreach Program in Vancouver, focused on helping families with their food and residential needs.
People forget that there are household families, individuals who struggle month to month with basic needs and necessities. In fact, somebody like me could be in need at the moment and people wouldn't know because it's not so obvious.
The program was initially meant to support women and children.
It ended up being something that we would offer to other people, not just women and children, but fathers, elders that cannot move, people with disabilities that are able to leave the house.
As part of the program, the not-for-profit runs food hampers 3 times a month, local food banks stepping up to help fill the hampers.
We work with a lot of not only grown adults, but we work with a lot of children, and we're very mindful that children are growing and they need their full nutritional values.
Besides the food hampers, the team has also set up a community fridge outside their office, meant for those who are desperately in need of food support. But workers say demand is much greater than supply.
When we fill that fridge, it can be gone in a matter of minutes sometimes.
But it's not just the lack of food that's a challenge for the organization.
When I started, actually, there were no volunteers.
Jessica Simmerd first joined society's workshops to reconnect with her culture. But sensing the need for volunteers, she decided to step in and help.
So many people think that because you're Indigenous, you have access to so many resources, or they think that the government just gives so much money. It's very untrue. There's actually a lack. There's a lack of resources. There's a lack of funding.
Workers at the society say the need for additional resources is greater than ever, whether that's in terms of actual food donations or willingness to volunteer your time.
It's not really about the donations, but it's about the helping, and that part of it really does wonders for this community.
Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now, as the season of giving approaches, charitable groups say the need is greater than ever. With inflation hitting hard, more families will struggle this time of year. Michelle Gassoub reports on the pleas for donations.
At Canada Line stations across the Lower Mainland, a call to embrace the season of giving.
You're giving these blankets to people who don't have a blanket. It means you're giving them something to stay warm and comfortable. And you're giving them smiles, and you're giving them love and hope. And we couldn't say thank you enough.
Blanket BC launched its annual drive, hoping to make the freezing nights a little easier for those without shelter.
Our goal every year is 10 and 10, so 10,000 blankets and $10,000. That would be the ultimate goal.
But this year more than ever, as the cost of just about everything soars, families are struggling to stay afloat. Charitable organizations are worried those who usually donate may find themselves cutting back.
It's not easy for anybody, and so we're extremely grateful for anyone donating, even just $1.
As we see the inflation, we see what's happening on our grocery shelves.
In Robson Square, the Salvation Army launched its annual Christmas Kettle campaign. This year, the goal is to raise $4.2 million.
People are needing the basic necessities of life: clothing, food, shelter.
The Salvation Army helped 800,000 people in BC last year, but they anticipate this year the need will be even higher. And though it's still November, the hope is those who are able will embrace that spirit of giving. Hi. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Vancouver Christmas Market opened its Tinsley gates yesterday to start spreading the Christmas cheer. But is mid-November too soon to be eating all things peppermint? We asked some shoppers.
I start Christmas celebrations November 1st, so to me it's perfect.
Exactly. I feel like since it's reading break for university, a lot of people are visiting, and this could be a good chance to find Christmas presents early for their families, and yeah. Yes, I think it's so cute, and I'm really glad we came.
We missed it during COVID, right? So I've been coming every year until COVID time, and this is the first time after. It should be earlier. Then we can come back.
This is a good time.
It's never too early. It's always just like whenever you want to put up your Christmas tree, put it.
Our Christmas tree's up already, so
yeah.
I think that's your answer.
We were just saying that it feels a little early. We're not quite in the spirit yet, but this was the weekend that I happened to be in town, so why not? Kick it off.
The moment the burn months hit, already start celebrating. Favorite part about Christmas would be being with family, friends, family, the food, and enjoying the time together.
You asked me what my favorite thing is? I don't know, when it's over, because we're always busy because of Christmas, but I love it. It's really something we do with our full passion here.
Indigenous tourism businesses in BC can now get non-repayable grants. That's thanks to a new $10 million program launched by the federal government to support the industry as it continues to recover from the impacts of COVID-19. Qualifying Indigenous businesses can get up to $25,000 administered through the Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada.
I believe that the Indigenous tourism sector can transform Canada's next years of tourism industry in this country. It offers exactly what people are looking for: sustainable, cultural, ecotourism, but in particularly unique, authentic experiences.
The funding also aims to help the association promote an accreditation program and certify eligible businesses. Another nice day across the South Coast. Crisp and clear. Darius Madavi, thank you as we head into the weekend.
It was all me. Except if I take credit for that, I have to take the blame for what's coming next. So
well, we're going to figure out maybe an equitable arrangement, maybe not equal.
Exactly. So we do have a few weather warnings across the province. Air quality statement for parts of the southern interior. Special weather statement for winds, strong winds coming to the west coast and the greater Victoria area. Parts of the island tomorrow night into Sunday morning. Not quite strong enough to qualify for a wind warning, but still something to look out for. These rainfall warnings still in place. Most of the rain has come, but still considerable amounts still to come, especially for the coastal sections of the North Coast. And we do have a special weather statement for Haida Gwaii and the coastal sections of the North Coast. You can't see it here. For Monday, where we're expecting to see strong winds as well. Could develop into a wind warning, but it's too early to say. Now, if we do take a look at the rainfall coming, you can see that still streaming into the North Coast. Not until around noon, early afternoon tomorrow, we start to see that come to the west coast of the island and then make its way over to the lower mainland later on Saturday. Short-lived, maybe we'll see some more scattered showers Sunday morning, but should clear up Sunday afternoon for a cloudy, maybe some breaks of sun day that day. And then here in Vancouver overnight tonight, we're just expecting really some cloud and then building into tomorrow morning. Still a sunny day until the evening.
Okay, thanks very much, Darius.
Thanks, Dan.
Last month, Vancouver police arrested members of the Drug User Liberation Front, or DULF, an activist group that gave out illegal drugs to substance users deemed at risk of overdosing. That operation has since been shut down. But there is support for more access to a so-called safer supply of drugs. As the CBC's Ian Hannah-Mansing shows us, those calling for change include the BC's chief coroner, doctors, and people trying to reclaim control of their lives.
4 times a day, 7 days a week, Dennis Pelzer comes to this health clinic on Vancouver's downtown east side. He says it saved his life. If those programs didn't exist, where would you get your drugs?
Right off the street.
Like right out there?
Yeah.
How many times do you think you OD'd?
I was ODing like almost every time I used. It didn't matter how much I used, I went down.
This is called the SAFER program, the first of its kind in North America. About 100 patients come here to get this, fentanyl, prescribed by a doctor, prepared by a pharmacist. That's why it's considered safer than what's on sale on the streets just outside of here. Could you ever have imagined you'd be coming in here and getting prescription fentanyl?
No, no.
Like a doctor prescribes it, you get it, it's clean, and you get to use it here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, wow, all right, sign me up. After we get it in the cooker, we throw the water in, and then these are tourniquets.
Even in a province known for bold innovations to reduce drug deaths, fentanyl, distributed by a government-funded clinic, is a big step. Dr. Christy Sutherland launched the program.
Well, I never thought I would be doing this. I also agree, it's quite bizarre. I'm a family doctor, I should be doing pap tests and working on people's hypertension, but I landed in this community, and this is the services that they need, so this is what I created as a family doctor. For me, the way I look at it is that drugs exist, and society also exists. And what is the relationship between drugs and society? Right now, we have the worst relationship possible. Organized crime controls the supply chain, they control the dose, they control the price, and they are unregulated. So if you were to sit down and set up the worst system possible to make it racist and violent and kill people, this is the system you would create.
The drug death crisis in British Columbia is so acute, there's really not much controversy about a government-funded clinic distributing fentanyl. But here's the contentious part, and lives hang in the balance. How can the province quickly expand the number of people who get so-called safer tested drugs? And consider these two numbers. Currently, about 5,000 British Columbians get drugs from some sort of government-supervised program. It could be fentanyl or an opioid replacement drug. But according to a coroner's report, 225,000 people in this province are at risk of injury or death because they're getting their drugs on the street. That risk extends far beyond the downtown east side, and the question remains, how far should access to safer supply extend? You're looking at what was the distribution center for the Drug Users Liberation Front, or DULF.
So for our heroin, we always use red bags, and the meth is in green bags, and the cocaine is in clear bags.
It is an activist group pushing for change. And back in September, co-founder Jeremy Calicum invited us to watch him package their version of a safer supply with drugs they obtained illegally.
Yeah, so this is North America's first cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine compassion club.
Though not supervised by medical staff, the drugs here were tested at a university. Carefully packaged with detailed labels from the precise contents to a warning.
Okay, that's that time. 33 bucks.
Yeah. 7, and we're good to go.
They were sold to club members at cost. Funding from the provincial government paid for the testing.
Half gram of tested, clean, no cut, but it's also highly addictive and dangerous to people who don't use it. Right? So.
Dolph says no one has died using their drugs.
This kind of program, if it were to expand, what would the result be? What would the net change be?
Obviously, there'd be less deaths, there'd be less overdoses, there'd be less of attacks on our healthcare system, less of attacks on policing. It'd also be a lot of money taken away from organized crime, because these are drugs that organized crime would otherwise be selling to these people at inflated prices. You know, what we're doing right now is we still are buying it from the black market and then taking away a margin of those profits by selling it for a much lower price. But if we could get those drugs from a pharmaceutical company, which is really no problem, like chemists can make this stuff up in no time at all. So you have the people's names here, right? Like Airbnb, Canada Goodies.
This is where Dolph got its drugs, traveling through the dark web to find suppliers. As Calicum said, they bought in bulk on the black market from Canadian sellers, the packages mailed to them. Buying drugs on the dark web may have been a step too far. After almost a year in operation, the Vancouver police swooped in and shut Dolph down. The provincial government withdrew its funding, and the members of the Compassion Club presumably left to buy their drugs on the street. Dolph may not have the backing of the provincial government, but it does have support in the community. Keep in mind, many of the bold steps taken in the downtown east side have been led by activists, from needle exchanges to supervised injection sites.
Safe supply! If people don't have access, then they're just going to die in the streets.
And just as Dolph was being shut down, a panel of 21 experts issued this report for the coroner. The bottom line, with 6 people dying every day in BC from toxic drugs in September, it said access to a safer supply must be expanded quickly, even without a doctor's supervision. The panel said our urgent attention must be on creating access to alternatives to the unregulated drug supply for people who use drugs. But before the recommendations were even announced, the provincial government said it would not support providing drugs without a prescription.
First question today.
At the news conference about the panel's recommendations, BC's chief coroner, Lisa Lapointe, was asked about the decision to shut down Dolph, which police say was trafficking drugs.
I can't speak specifically to those, to that action, but I suppose I would say that if you see somebody in a burning house, you feel somewhat justified to smash a window. And this crisis is massive. 225,000 people are still at risk of death every day.
One capsule each time?
Yeah.
And then you go over to one of these tables?
Yeah.
Dennis Pelzer is one of the fortunate ones in a medically supervised program with access to a safer supply and plans he couldn't have imagined without it. A stable life, and soon he hopes a job.
You know, there's some people who hear about this program and they say it's wrong for doctors to prescribe fentanyl. It just feels wrong to them. What would you say to people who say that?
They don't know what it's like to be addicted to fentanyl. It's such a hard thing to explain to someone that doesn't do drugs. Once you get hooked on it, it's scary, you know, like you have no choice but to seek out this drug.
That was the CBC's Ian Hannah-Mansing reporting, and he joins us now. Ian, thanks for joining us. What stood out to you being in the facility and the operation of Dolph?
Yeah, so we're in 2 places, as we just saw. So at Dolph, I have to admit, to be in a place and to see where on the dark web they go to buy those drugs, or when they were open, they were buying the drugs. To see them package the cocaine and meth and heroin, it did seem odd. It's provocative. And they knew it was provocative, and as it turns out, probably a little too provocative for the police department and for the provincial government, and they're shut down. But we were also in that fentanyl clinic, where first of its kind in North America when it opened up over a year ago, and they have prescriptions for fentanyl and people coming in there. It just shows you, Dan, how, and we know this, right, that British Columbia has really led the country and sometimes the world in trying to figure out a way to reduce drug deaths. But we also know that those drug deaths continue, an average of 6 a day in British Columbia in September.
And there's staggering numbers, and we've been reporting on them for however many years it has been since it was declared a public health emergency years ago. You mentioned the resistance, perhaps, that they finally ran into with the provincial government. This is a provincial government, though, that has supported supervised injection sites and different ways of trying to save people's lives from toxic drugs, right?
Yeah, so I was kind of curious about that. You have the chief coroner who couldn't make it clearer. We need to have in this province, an urgent expansion of access to a safer supply. No matter how you feel about it in terms of morality, if you care about the people who are dying, there has to be a way to expand that. So the province has resisted. I was kind of curious as to why. I interview on the National tonight Jennifer Whiteside, the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction, and viewers will see that she doesn't really directly answer that question.
Ian Adamancing, thanks very much.
Thank you.
High school helpers. How hundreds of students are providing food to those in need on the downtown east side. We're going to speak with one of them after the break. And thank you for watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. In Saskatoon, a teenager is teaching a thoroughbred horse she rides how to paint using its nose and tongue. The 17-year-old artist says she found the idea on TikTok, and her equine has created dozens of pieces.
Ella Wall first met Duff the horse a couple years ago. The 17-year-old rides the Kentucky-born thoroughbred several times a week, and now she's taught him to paint using his nose and his tongue.
Now we have to ask him what colors he wants to use.
If Duff touches a paint with his nose, she puts it on the canvas. After adding several colors, she covers the canvas in plastic. Then Wall coats it with some edible oil the horse licks, which mixes the wet paint underneath. That camelina oil also acts as a supplement for the retired race horse's joints. Once the plastic is removed, voila, it's a beautiful painting.
If I get the paint bottles out of my locker, he gets excited. He knows that he gets to paint. He loves being an artist. It's his life's work.
Wall got the idea after seeing it on TikTok.
Yeah, I did.
So far, she has helped Duff paint 3 dozen pieces and sells them for $25 to $60. That money goes back into caring for the horse, who boards at a stable near Borden. Wall says Duff has a strong artistic point of view.
So I just put some blue on and I took it over to him and he just looked at me. He would not touch it. He wouldn't make the painting because he knew that that blue was on it and he didn't tell me to use that blue.
The pair has also developed a unique relationship. Wall cares for Duff and helps him let go some of his nervous habits like biting and head bobbing. Brianna Dill Schneider owns the horse. She says Wall, who has Tourette's syndrome, gets as much from it as Duff does.
It's a mutually beneficial relationship. She became Tuff's person. And sometimes with Ella's Tourette's, she's unable to speak. And so Tuff allows her to speak again. She'll come out and all of a sudden be like, yay, I can talk again. And he just unlocks so much in Ella. I don't do very much. I don't have a job. I don't do any school clubs. I spend all of my time here with him.
Wall says she and Duff are glad to have found each other, and she hopes they can keep spending time creating art together. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Borden.
3 years ago, 5 high school students founded a group called Project Hastings to provide food to people on Vancouver's downtown east side. It has now grown to hundreds of students from schools across Metro Vancouver, and it's raised tens of thousands of dollars. Joining us now is Tinklin Tsiang, the Executive Director of Operations at Project Hastings. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, too.
Tell us, what do you do every day? What does Project Hastings do every day on the downtown east side?
Project Hastings is a high school-led, student-led, registered nonprofit organization here in Vancouver. It has grown internationally, but as the Executive Director of Operations here at Vancouver, we do bi-weekly distributions at downtown east side. We would take our volunteers to TNT Chinatown, and we'll take a short walk to Pigeon Park to ensure our volunteers are safe. We do bi-weekly distributions, like again said. We usually distribute sandwiches, sanitary products, as well as hygienic products, so that it makes the people there's lives easier.
And sometimes it's just it's small, it's food, it's basic things, right?
Yeah, it's really like necessity things that they really need to keep them to keep them alive, to like make sure that one day they might have the hope to get a job, to be working, and to be living like us.
What sort of reaction do you get when you offer these things to people?
Well, the main reaction that we get is definitely from the community. There, most of the unhoused people, they're always saying thank you. They're always being so nice to us and so forgiving. But also just the community members that are not unhoused too. They're also really approachable and nice. And we also have been in touch with MPs as well as city councillors. They're also really appreciative of the work that we do here.
Why do you think it's important for high school students, pardon my interruption, why do you think it's important for high school students and others to get involved in this work?
Well, to me personally, I think it's not just alleviating poverty or alleviating food insecurity. I think it's also like any changes that we can implement into the world that makes it a better place. Here at Project Hastings, I think not only are we doing this for volunteer hours, which is what most of the high school students need, but also just to make sure that there are people around us who are unfortunate, who doesn't have the education that we get, and to help them a bit as well.
And what do you hope Project Hastings does in the future?
Well, in the long-term goal, we definitely hope we're taking a step closer to combating food insecurity as well as housing insecurity. But in the short term, we're actually working on like a short architecture emergency shed project with CBC Architecture. And we hope the end of this project to be implementing smart technology into these sheds so that there could be an alarm to the ambulance when we do sense like people being unconscious.
Wow, and when do those get built?
We hope that it's going to come in the future 1 to 2 years. We're still doing site analyzations right now just to ensure the safety and measures are put down.
Tinklin Tsiang, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you too.
Some diabetics are feeling anxious, left searching for a drug that's proved a game changer. Why Ozempic is so hard to find. After this.
My name is Lina Khaled. We immigrated to Canada in 2021, but here in SAR Studio Salon, there is a private room, so the door will be shut off. The curtains will be double covered. So this gives you the confidence to go and feel that for hijab ladies, they have this chance to do the services. They will feel very happy.
My name is Hana El Abbas. I'm from Syria. I am hairdresser. I work different places in my country, different salons to get more experience. When I felt I'm okay, I'm ready to get my own business. My father's helped me to open a small salon for me, but my dreams was not completed because of the war. First 2 years it was difficult for me because it's different culture, language, weather, everything different for me. And I was pregnant, I take care of my family. That's why I didn't look, but I heard about the Salon Siwab. It was, for me, it's a good idea to start again, to stand on my feet again.
Even my husband, when I used to look for the salons, he was not very satisfied, to go to an open salon and I'm putting the scarf and to sit there. And sometimes a man can do the services, which is prohibited for us, according to our tradition and culture and religions. I'm not allowed to a man to touch my hair or to do anything facial or any kind of services that the salons offers. So even the family members will not be happy. But here, as long as it is a private room for ladies and the door will be shut down, the curtains will be covering all things, so the husbands will be happy, the lady will be happy, everyone will be satisfied with this. Whenever now I want to do a service, I will not be worried about it anymore. I will not be looking more and more. This salon gives you not only a private room for to do the services, but it gives you the home environment, friendly environment. And okay, I will go now to the salon. I will grab the opportunity to sit with my friend, have a cup of coffee, do the service, change my mood, and then I will go home. So it gives you more friendly, more than that you are going and do something and leave.
The United Nations suspended aid deliveries to Gaza today because of a shortage of fuel and a communication shutdown in the Palestinian territory. The UN says civilians face the immediate possibility of starvation due to a lack of food supplies. Israel says it will not agree to any kind of ceasefire unless all of the hostages taken by Hamas are released. As Briar Stewart tells us, it agreed to ship in small loads of fuel amid the worsening humanitarian crisis.
There seems to be no end to the grief here. This is outside a hospital in northern Gaza, which medical staff describe as being in a dire condition. And that can be said for much of Gaza. There's no fuel, no electricity, no water, says this woman. Israel has reportedly agreed to allow 2 fuel trucks into Gaza every day to be used for the water and sewage systems. But aid officials say much more is needed. Israeli special forces continue to search the Al-Shifa hospital, which they accuse Hamas of using to conceal a command center. They released new video of soldiers working above what they say is a tunnel shaft at the complex. But the medical staff say the fighting around the hospital is jeopardizing hundreds of patients.
They asked me about the tunnels. We told them it's in your hands. If you can't find anything. But from our side, we didn't know anything.
On Friday in Israel, a funeral for a 19-year-old soldier whose body was found near Al-Shifa. And Hamas released a video which they claimed is proof that another of the 240 hostages in Gaza has died.
We had strong indications that they were held in the Shifa hospital, which is one of the reasons we entered the hospital.
Hamas says some of the hostages were in hospital because they were getting medical care. But no one believes that at this community in southern Israel. Netiv HaSarah is closed off by the military, but we were given access today, taken in by one of the local residents to a community right on the edge of Gaza.
This is as close as you can be to Gaza without actually being there. We are just meters from the region. It's on the other side of this wall.
When militants attacked last month, Hamas used paragliders to get over this wall. 21 people were killed, including the elderly couple who lived in this house, which was burned to the ground.
Get down, get down, get down.
The constant threat of attack means that no one can stay here, and they're only allowed to visit with a military escort.
Think you'll ever feel safe here again?
No, probably not. Probably not. What happened today will always going to be on our minds. It will never go away.
peace, a dream unrealized, now seems even farther away. Briar Stewart, CBC News, along the Israel-Gaza border.
And as the violence in the Middle East raises tensions all over the world, hate is trending online, including a surge of interest on TikTok in the writings of Osama bin Laden. But as Jamie Strachan shows us, it goes beyond one social media platform.
I need you to stop what you're doing and go read A Letter to America.
The latest viral videos on TikTok promoting a 2-decade-old letter written by the architect of 9/11, Osama bin Laden, riddled with anti-Semitism.
The way this letter is going viral right now is giving me the greatest sense of relief.
Young progressive people are being encouraged to believe that the most hateful, illiberal, murderous terrorist of recent history is actually a paragon of virtue.
The Israel-Hamas war has queued off a torrent of online hate since the October 7th attacks. According to the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, anti-Muslim hate speech on X, formerly known as Twitter, jumped 422%, while the Anti-Defamation League says anti-Semitic content soared more than 919%.
The type of things that people are being subjected to and put through simply because of, who they are, what their name is.
We've seen an absolute explosion in hate online, all the way across various social media platforms. Just the most vile stuff that one can imagine.
Because social media is driven by engagement, unless checked, hateful content spreads faster.
So what they amplify to billions of people is the stuff that gets the most interactions. And the stuff that gets the most interactions are conspiracy theories and hate.
Elon Musk, X's owner, exacerbated things with posts endorsing an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. IBM and Apple pulled advertising. The White House offered a rare rebuke of a private company, saying we condemn this abhorrent promotion of anti-Semitic and racist hate. In a call with TikTok executives, a group of Jewish celebrities led by Sacha Baron Cohen criticized the company for promoting anti-Semitic content.
They find themselves in this moment of real emergency where the lies that underpin hate are flowing unabated on their platform, incapable of dealing with it.
The EU and the UK have taken steps to hold social media companies accountable for content on their platforms, something Canada has yet to do. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
A global supply problem is posing a serious worry to diabetes patients being treated with the drug Ozempic. Avantika Anand reports the suspicion is that a push for weight loss is to blame.
Carl Drodge uses Ozempic to treat his type 2 diabetes. Recently, when he went to his pharmacy,
there's nothing available, no Ozempic available. And I started figuring, okay, what am I going to do now? So I put calls into my pharmacy and my doctor and everything else.
Drodge says he's tried every pharmacy in town, only to leave empty-handed every time.
I'm very concerned. I won't say I'm not freaked out by it at this point, but definitely very concerned, which is why I'm trying to get answers.
Luckily, he has enough of an alternate medication to tide him over. But for some other diabetes patients, this shortage could mean life or death.
This is a life-changing drug, and I was reticent to go on it, but then once I got on it, it's like, really? Okay, so the one med that really works good for me now, I can't get it. Why?
This is a day in my life / what I eat in a day on Ozempic, also known as...
Some doctors are blaming TikTok. Videos like this promoting Ozempic as a miracle drug for weight loss.
Well, we know that somewhere between 25 and 50% of prescriptions for Ozempic are probably being used for weight loss.
People are also turning to various online pharmacies to get their Ozempic. All that demand causing intermittent shortages of the drug. In a statement, the manufacturer of Ozempic apologized to patients and healthcare professionals for the shortage, saying, quote, Ozempic is not marketed as a weight loss treatment. Ozempic is not approved for chronic weight management. And that its global production is operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to address patient needs. Health Canada says the shortage is expected to persist till at least the end of March next year. Avantika Anand, CBC News, Ottawa.
Award-winning treats. We're going to take you inside a Burnaby bakery that's turning heads internationally. The sweetness is up next.
hanging up your bike frequently and working on it. You know, a community bike shop, not just in Thunder Bay, but community bike shops around the world, they provide quite an affordable means of accessing transportation. My name is Ian, and I'm the owner of Community Spokes. You know, we offer free teaching, free tool use. You can come in with your bicycle and work on it for free. You can build a bike here. We got lots of bikes. You know, you can volunteer. So that affordable access is a pretty big, strong component of community bike shops and, you know, Community Spokes. We work with a variety of populations and demographics, you know, and that is actually also built into the model of like intentionally breaking down socioeconomic barriers. You know, you may have someone who makes a six-figure salary in here working on their, you know, their nice road bike, you know, and you might have a homeless fellow working on their bike to get across town. And suddenly these two people who never probably would have crossed paths or interacted are now talking about bikes and how they love bikes, you know. The programs we run, you know, and the organizations we work with, and the people we meet are just, it's designed to facilitate kind of all avenues and all walks of life. So, in the winter, your chain needs quite a bit of cleaning. And I should probably give the rest of the bike of a clean, but maybe not today. So winter cycling, I like to break it down into three main kind of avenues. You need to have equipment on your bicycle, and to ride in the winter. You need to have proper apparel, and then you need to have a different kind of cycling behavior and mindset. So, when it comes to equipment, summarized, you want to have spiked tires, and also be aware that the bike you're riding is going to endure quite a bit of damage from the salt. So just be prepared to, you know, maybe don't ride your most fanciest bike, or if you are, like I do, just take care of it, really good care of it, like wash it down, clean it, stuff like that. The next thing is apparel, you know, so you gotta kind of like be prepared with just an extra outfit in your backpack or your pannier, you know, as you kind of, you know, go about the city. And if you're not comfortable and you're doing a winter activity, it's just immediately not fun. And then the last thing is cycling behavior and cycling kind of judgment. You know, be visible, like lights, vests, anything. Like, you know, it's very dark in the winter. And things happen very quickly with all the ice and stuff. You know, motorists, be mindful. And also know that we are at a point where infrastructure is not where it could be. You know, obviously it's getting better with the infrastructure, but like, it's just not where it could be to really facilitate winter cyclists to like just an amazing degree, but yeah.
A bakery in Burnaby is known for its very creative treats. At Punk Rock Pastries, you'll find donuts and cupcakes and cookies that may resemble private body parts. That creativity has won the owner top honors with the Food Network's Halloween Baking Championship this year. Caroline Chan dropped by.
And this is actually going to be the Bride of Frankenstein. I am just sculpting it with modeling chocolate, and then her hair will come up and it'll be around like this big.
My name is Holly and I are in Punk Rock Pastries in Burnaby, Canada.
I pretty much just took everything that I do every day with me on the show, and well, it paid off.
And the Halloween baking champion is Holly.
I just won! I'm the Halloween baking champion.
And I just couldn't really believe it. I was like, oh my God, like I did not think I would win. Like I was like, I knew my stuff was good, but I didn't think it was that good.
I mean, this is the best bakery I've ever been to. I haven't seen anything like it in the Lower Mainland or anywhere else.
The most weirdest thing is these things just come out of my head. I don't know where they come from. I think I'm a little bit nuts. When someone just tells me the theme of what they want, I start looking at a lot of pictures of whatever the character is, and then I'm like, okay, how can I turn that into cake? And then I'll usually sketch something, work it out, and then my hands do all the rest. With Christmas coming up, we lean towards more things like Krampus, Christmas and the Grinch. You can go to 20 other bakeries in the Lower Mainland and not see anything that we make here. For me to be able to sit down and do this like all day is just a dream come true. So fun.
Darius Madavi is back with the full BC forecast and it's Fun Fact Friday. So what do you have for us?
Oh, well, we will get to the fun facts. I'm going to run through the weather very quickly. First, if we take a look here, you can see that we did have all that precipitation from 5 a.m. yesterday to 5 a.m. today, hitting around Prince Rupert, close to 100 millimeters just east of there. Across the rest of the North Coast, not too much, most of it falling on the Alaska side of the border. Over the next 48 hours, if we look, we still have a good amount of precipitation coming to Prince Rupert tonight, close to 20 millimeters, and they do have more rain pouring in over the weekend. Here on the south coast, we have a little bit of rain in many places, but not going to look like too much for the most part, mostly just some light showers that will be scattered throughout Sunday evening into, or on the island Sunday at noon, or Saturday at noon into Sunday morning. There we go. Can't go too fast or else I'll get tripped up. We do have that special weather statement in place because of those high winds that are coming for the island. Likely not going to, or at the moment it doesn't seem like it will reach the threshold for a proper wind warning, but they do want people to be aware. As well, here in Vancouver, we will see some strong winds as well, gusting as high as 60 kilometers per hour Saturday night, so be prepared for that. Here tomorrow, we have those pretty nice conditions still in the south and across the interior, except for that rain starting on the west coast of the island by the afternoon. Here on the rest of the south coast, not making here until the evening, and then we have that rain all up and down the coast, as well as snow for the northern parts of BC. And here, if we take a look at our 5-day forecast, we do have these showers continuing into the rest of the week. So continuing here, it's time to reboot the system because this is push everything back one day.
Got it.
They're doing the reboot tomorrow, so that's good news.
Beautiful. Okay, so tomorrow we get what, just to clarify?
Tomorrow we get rain.
Okay. Rain Saturday.
Saturday evening rain.
Yeah.
Sunday morning, maybe some scattered showers, and then clearing up a bit on Monday.
Okay.
And Sunday afternoon into Monday.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll wake up the hamster and get the wheel going again. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Now, Fun Fact Friday.
Fun Fact Friday. I think we should look at something a little bit better than this. Dan, do you recognize this? Look at that. Look at that handsome guy there. Yeah.
My brother!
Today we are talking about how dogs perceive the world, because there's this misconception that dogs only see in black and white, and that's not quite true. Instead, whereas we humans have 3 color perceiving cells in our eyes, 3 cones, we can see blue and green and red, and together that makes up the whole spectrum. Dogs can only have a blue cone and a yellow cone. So whereas we see this whole spectrum of colors, dogs do see in color, but only this spectrum here from blues to yellows. Probably a bit of green here as well. They might be able to make out. So whereas we see you as this beautiful image, Dan,
I prefer
really
striking, but keep going.
They see you as more of a Hulk-like figure. This
washed out,
purple here, but this is actually blue. It's just the rest of the image is so green that it appears purple.
Study in contrast.
Exactly, yes. They also have slightly blurrier vision than we do, so really it would look closer to this.
See, that's the best one there.
So there we go. Even more handsome. So there we go. But it's not just this that we can see. We also have the capability, Dan, because we're very technologically advanced, to show you what you look like live as a dog would see you. So there we go. If your dogs are watching at home, they saw no difference whatsoever.
Perfect. There we go. Yeah, a little more blurry. No,
there we go.
Keep going. Good thing I shaved today.
Those 2 colors.
Lord.
You can see those CBC screens in the background. No red visible because they can't perceive the color red. And there you go. That's what it's a little bit bluer. They'd probably see more yellow, but
no kidding.
Technology has only come so far.
My
so
goodness. There we go. Love it. Thanks, Darius.
Thanks, Dan.
Celebrating 150 years, we take you to a Chilliwack church that was once perched on top of canoes. Stick around.
Estimates show that as many as 2 in 3 kids have a strong fear of needles. With vaccine season upon us, what if we could turn nightmares into unicorn dreams? We know that a lot of people hate needles. So for this video, we're gonna replace all the needles with unicorns. It's not just us trying to replace needles. Scientists are trying to do it for real. No more needles. Not with unicorns, though. Needles, or unicorns, have been used for centuries. Let's go back to ancient Greece. We're talking about around the 8th century BC. Then, hollow reeds were used to apply oil to the body. I know a reed isn't actually a needle, but close enough. Unicorn, please! The idea of the needle evolved over time. In 1853, a doctor in Scotland combined a needle and a syringe to give us the injection technique that we use today. Excuse me. As I was saying, we've used needles forever. But why? Well, according to medical experts, a needle gives a direct access to muscle tissue. Tissue that is rich in blood and cells to help deliver the vaccine. Something called an immune response is triggered. That's because a vaccine delivers a small dose of what the body is being taught to recognize. This helps the person's body to learn to fight back if they catch it later on. But is there really no other way to trigger that immune response? You know, something that doesn't involve a unicorn? Let me tell you about needleless vaccines. Listen, a lot of these new vaccines are experimental and will take time. And some are not as effective as needle vaccines yet. But alternatives to needles include a nasal vaccine for the flu. You just spray the vaccine up your nose. Patch vaccines, also known as vaccine maps or microneedle patches. These patches dissolve on your skin as the body absorbs the vaccine. Oh, and another kind. If you thought unicorns were out of this world, wait until you hear about needle-free microjet injectors. Huh? These have a high power jet of liquid that moves fast enough to go through your skin. See that? That liquid is moving 100 kilometers an hour. Sounds intense, but it's supposed to inject the vaccine without pain. So, are these vaccines available now? Some are. Others are hard to find or need more research and testing. It doesn't hurt to ask your doctor what options are available to you. Now I can sleep a little bit easier knowing that the future may be unicorn-free. You know what I mean.
St. Thomas Anglican Church has been standing in Chilliwack for 150 years. Originally built in 1859 in Port Douglas, it was moved to the Fraser Valley using Haida canoes 14 years later. And this weekend, community members are marking the anniversary with an open house.
There's been a spiritual presence in the Chilliwack area and where the building came from in British Columbia for 150 years at least.
Started out at the Port Douglas at the top of Harrison Lake, came down, taken apart and came down on 6 canoes and was put back up at the 5 Corners. It's a much smaller building than this, needless to say. And then in, I think 1902 or 1903, they had to build a bigger church. So they built it at 5 Corners and then moved it here on rollers later. 150 years, when I think that the church was at 5 Corners 150 years ago, Chilliwack was pretty small. There was nothing, like it was a mud road up to the church. 5 Corners was supposedly there, but it was literally 5 muddy trails that met in the middle. So yeah, man, I mean, it's spread, you know, it's really grown. Sunday's not necessarily for church and Sunday school anymore. So yeah, that's a big thing. You know, we had a huge choir. Now we don't have a huge choir. It's just,
there was 3 services in
yeah,
here.
They 3 services.
Add a balcony on.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. So you know, it ebbs and flows. You know, you have a whole lot of people, and then it kind of goes down, and there aren't as many people. Then it builds up again, and that's over all those years. That's how it's been.
I think just normalizing a faith journey, that it does have its ups and downs, and we have our sorrows and our joys, and they're all mingled together. And we just show up when we can, how we can, and receive what we're needed at the time. And hopefully it be a community, a loving community of care, and encouragement. So building up the community, I think, is really important. For the 150th anniversary, we've put up labels all around the building as a bit of a history tour, and labeling, which were from the original building at Port Douglas, and what pieces have been added, and who gifted those to the church in remembrance of someone. Saturday
we have a dinner.
Yes, and it's right now it's wait list, but we've got 90-some people coming, and we're really glad it's all we can fit in the room. We're hoping to fill the house and load the balcony right up. Hope so. Yeah.
Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, our free app, as well as on YouTube and our website, cbc.ca/BC. I will have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. Have a good night.